Hey, welcome everybody to Church of the Redeemer, to our adult forum, and to our we do these conversations in faith where we talk to different people. We've interviewed Betsy Berry, we interviewed Amy Harris, we interviewed Tom Hill and Evan Bond, we've interviewed Ann Blemker, we've interviewed Alyssa Timmerman and some other folks here at the church about their ministry at the church, and then we'll take a portion of that and put it in our newsletter, and then hopefully if the recording sounds okay, we'll put this online. But today we have a very special guest in our ministry interview, and that is the Reverend Charlie Brumbaugh. Welcome, Charlie.
Good to see everybody.
It's an honor to share the stage with you, as it were.
And ditto.
Yeah, welcome home.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely. I have so many questions. Charlie and I have never actually hung out in real life. We only hang out on Facebook. But the first and most important question that I have for you is, are you a Broncos fan now?
I like the color orange.
He was at the game last year. So listen, the Broncos and the Bengals are playing each other this season. And I was thinking that we should do like your parish versus my parish. We should have some kind of bet.
I think we can do that.
Okay?
Yes.
And then if the Bengals win, you guys have to do something, send us something. And then if the Broncos win, we'll send you. And when the Broncos win, we'll send you something. Does it even matter what they have to say?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game.
You're very charitable. So you're in town. You're back in town because. Thank you. You're back in town because your daughter was running the pig. Is that right?
Well, our daughter-in-law was running the pig.
Okay, my apologies.
The wife of Ann's oldest, or the wife of Ann's oldest. But Ann's daughter this afternoon is receiving her master's in social work from Northern Kentucky University. So those two things are happening.
Yeah,
yes.
Congratulations.
And then we're flying to Kansas City because my sister's daughter's getting married and I'm doing the wedding in Kansas City.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being with us here today.
It's good to be here, Phil.
Yeah. So what I like to ask people generally is I like to talk to them about what ministries they're involved with. That would be a pretty long question for you. But so you were the associate rector here, and you were here at Redeemer for how many years?
14.
14 years. And you were in charge of pastoral care?
My focus was pastoral care, adult formation, and liturgy. But I, like all the clergy here, do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's part of the deal.
That's part of the deal.
Other what is it?
Other duties as
assigned.
Yes.
So I am
by
curious,
Martin, by Bruce.
When you've been away now for about 2 years.
Over 2 years. It was January of 16.
Okay.
So about 2.5 now.
So you've been away for 2 years. So that's giving you some time to sort of reflect. Mm-hmm. When you look back on your time at Redeemer, and there's a lot of time and a lot of things that you were a part of, but I'm curious about what are some of the things about Redeemer that that you were a part of making happen that you still look back on that you're really proud of?
Give me a few minutes.
Give me like
no. One of the passions that I brought to Redeemer was helping people prepare for their death and burial from the Episcopal Church, which I understand you just did again recently.
We did
some version of that, and I've had a passion for that all the years I've been ordained. So that was something I really enjoyed. But I really loved the vital mission. Energy in this place, but the worship energy has always been amazing. And I was in the banquet today. I couldn't be in two places at once, but the banquet was awesome today. The sermon was wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
The music was amazing. Is it still Spike Nerd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
With five singers now? I mean, they sounded amazing. It was great to see Nancy celebrating again. Yeah. But to see that energy still happening here was really gratifying. Yeah.
What's that? She wants to remember that you did the poetry.
Well, okay, yes, we began the Poetry Lovers group, which I understand is still going. There was a theology group happening, and then Ann and I together, I led it for a while, and then Ann led it after me. That became the Theology Circle, because I have the reason we really got into that was that my favorite thing about seminary was hanging out with a bunch of people and talking about theology, and I missed it. not being in seminary. And it was great to be in a congregation where people shared that passion. And this morning I was at the Bible study between, what do you call it? Between
Rise and Shine?
Rise and Shine.
Yeah.
And again, the high level of the theological conversation was really uplifting today. And Ann and I both enjoyed that.
Yeah. So now you're in Breckenridge. Is
Yes.
it St. John the Baptist? Is that correct?
St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church. And we live in Frisco in the rectory. And our house is about 9,000 feet, 9,100, and the church is at 9,500 feet.
Wow.
So the first Sunday I about passed out.
Yeah. I bet.
Trying to sing the hymns, nothing with a whole note, you know. But it's a different world at altitude.
Yeah. So you adjusted?
Have I adjusted? I've adjusted pretty well.
Ann says
I
yes.
think. Yes. So,
Yeah.
sometimes I benefit from a little extra oxygen at night.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And what have you, I guess I'm just curious about one of the things that I keep thinking about when it comes to being part of Redeemer, and this language has been here for a long time, it was here when you first showed up, is what it means for us to raise up lay leaders, and what it means for us to empower people for ministry at this church. And I'm wondering what of that ethos of empowering people for ministry you've been able to take to St. John the Baptist, and what are some of the things you've done there?
What's really interesting about that is that I've been working with the vestry there to be more like the way the vestry was here, which are focusing on vision rather than technical issues and nuts and bolts things. And just the other day, I started to talk to them about the idea of the ministry of encouragement. And they thought I was a genius.
That's right.
But I stole that idea from the Church of the Redeemer.
Right.
But that is a huge piece that I've taken away from the Church of the Redeemer, is to really see the leadership of the parish focused on encouraging all of us to be the people we're baptized to be. And one of the ways that unfolds at St. John the Baptist is that there are 3 Bible studies, but they're all lay-led.
Oh, wow.
And which is pretty good. The only bad thing is the men's Bible study meets at 7 in the morning, which I don't like.
Yeah.
But I show up anyway.
Yeah, that's great. And one of my favorite things about coming to Redeemer, when you come to a church where there's so much going on, is you see things that happen that other people came up with that you didn't come up with. You see things that when you come to a church that you just say, this is so beautiful. I remember my first few months here, or right after I'd gotten here, and Brad and Tommy planned this carnival. And I don't know if they had the carnival when you were here, but they did this carnival. And I just didn't, it was one of those things where I just showed up, and there were so many people that were here, and the energy that was here, and there was so much love in the room, and so much friendship and fellowship and joy. And then we combined that with the chili cook-off this year. And again, none of that was my idea. I just got to show up. And like my favorite thing about being part of a church is when you as a clergy didn't do it, you just showed up and saw something awesome happen, right? So I want to know, when you got to St. John the Baptist, what were the things that were happening that you were like, oh man, I just want to soak this up and see this happen?
Well, I have to say that the first thing that caught my mind when we saw their presence on the web was that they serve a community dinner open to everybody every Tuesday night, 52 weeks a year. And when I saw that and saw what a small parish they were, I thought any parish that has the energy to do that has something going on. Yeah. And that has been something I have not tampered with at all. Right. I participate a little bit. Sometimes I cook, but often I'm just there to greet the guests as they come. But it's a resort community, and there are a lot of people working on resort wages, which are not high. There are a lot of people that come out to live the dream, and then they find themselves unable to afford the dream. And then people just from the wider community come by, and it's a wonderful ministry. And so that was in place when I got there.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you going to get them to change from purple to blue for Advent?
We're actually talking about that for next year. And Phil's explanatory piece is now on my computer, which I will probably steal.
It was like our first conversation was Charlie sent me an email, and he was like, "You did it? You turned them to blue? How?"
I I don't see any angry faces here. That's good.
I have a list. I'll give you the list. Okay. I have it memorized. That's great. I'm wondering if we have some questions from our folks out here for Charlie. We might make Ann ask
or
a question.
For Ann.
Yeah, Ann, we might put you on the hot spot. Caleb, you got our mics? I got mics. All right.
I just want to know how long it takes to boil an egg at 9,000 feet.
How long does it take to boil an egg at 9,000 feet?
Ann, how long does it?
A little longer.
I understand that baking is very different, but I haven't baked anything personally.
Charlie, what's a typical day look like for you during the week?
Well, probably like Phil, there aren't very many typical days because every day is different, and that's one of the things I love about my work. And I think I am blessed out there to have a kind of a flexibility where I theoretically have these days off, but I can change them as necessary. For example, if there's a powder day. You have to do what needs to be done. But it is very different to be the rector of a pastoral-sized parish after being the associate rector in a corporate-sized parish. I hadn't been a rector in about 18 years. And this past year, my parish administrator of she'd been there 17 years and was worth her weight in gold, moved to North Carolina, and so I did the parochial report this year for the first time in over 20 years. And so I've had to relearn some skills and some things that have atrophied over time. But I really love the small parish. Although when I come back here and I see all the resources you have in this big, beautiful building, there are blessings in both the large and the small church. They're just different. But I am a jack of all trades there. That's definitely true. That's another unusual thing about St. John the Baptist. It's a pastoral-sized parish, and the figure that most people go by is average Sunday attendance. And the average Sunday attendance in the past year was 115.
Great.
That being said, we've got a number of people who are there living in Summit County all year round. And then we have people that come into Summit County in the summers because they're so beautiful, and they live there all summer. And then we have people that come in the winter because they love the winter, and they're there all winter. And then there's people that come up for 2 weeks here and 3 weeks there. And so we have what we call parishioners, but other people I call far-flung friends.
And a lot of people don't know, but if you're at Redeemer for a long time and you think about the size of this church, you kind of get used to it. But if your church has over 100 people on a Sunday, that's bigger than 60% of the churches in the Episcopal Church.
That is absolutely true.
So it might feel small compared to this,
yes.
But it's a good-sized church that you're running in.
It does make certain things a little more awkward. On Christmas Eve, we have 5 services.
Sure.
And for 4 of the 5 services, we have people also sitting in the parish hall watching on TV.
Because it's a pretty small space, right?
It's a very small space. We could maybe put 100 people in the nave if we press them. So
it sounds like you've got almost like you have several congregations in some way.
Yes.
Which you're used to, because here it's like we have several congregations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why I encourage people to wear their name tags.
I'm wearing my name tag right now.
Too. Yes.
Thank you, Charlie, for saying that. Yes, young lady over here without a name tag on. The 1 week Andrea doesn't wear her name tag. We're going to do Mike Krug and then Andrea.
What new things have you encountered with a new vestry and a different way of working and so on?
Well, in a parish as small as ours, we really don't have what you currently call the board structure, but when many churches have various committees and commissions and so forth and so on. And we really don't have that at St. John the Baptist. We recently, our mission people have formed a Jubilee committee because we are a Jubilee parish of the Episcopal Church, even though we're a small parish.
Can you tell us what that means?
There's a kind of a complex description of it in the national church, but it's a church that has an extraordinary degree of outreach in certain areas. And I think it's primarily our Tuesday night supper, which brought us to that. But the vestry, used to be very large during the interim period, but now it's come back to a very small vestry where we have 8 people on the vestry, 6 members, 2 wardens. And again, I'm trying to move them towards the idea of visioning. The main thing that's on our plate right at the moment is that when I came to St. John's, it's a beautiful little, if you've ever seen a picture of it, it's a little yellow church with the red doors, and it was built in 1892, and it's just so cute on the outside. But on the inside, after living there for a year, I thought, this place is starting to age. And for everything from the wiring to the plumbing to maybe doing something different with the sanctuary. And so we're now, I never thought I would ever say this.
Here
but
it comes. Say it.
Yes.
Say it.
We are discerning right now to have a capital
I knew you were gonna say
campaign and start renovations. And our first project was actually to go throughout the far-flung friends and the locals and say, is there any energy for this? And I was stunned to find that almost unanimously, everybody is in favor of something. Now, it might be as simple as a coat of paint, and that's it, or something really significant. But we're a historical building, which adds complications to it. But assuming we go forward with that, that is probably going to be our focus, as you know, for the next several years.
Well, you've had, even if you weren't the rector of the church, what was happening, you were here for 2 capital campaigns, weren't you?
Yeah, but like you, I just kind of slid in on that.
Yeah.
And I was hanging around, and, and the heavy lifting was already being done by other people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I have no plans for a capital campaign at this time.
Well,
I want to make sure we're clear about that at this church. At this time.
At this time.
Andrea, and then Kathy, and then Nancy.
I'm interested in just seeing on Facebook that you've been involved in several rescue operations, like the fires and other things, and I'm just interested in what that looks like.
Well, Summit County is about an hour and 15 minutes from the edge of Denver. It's about 45 minutes from Claire and Ted Terry, for those of you who remember them. But we are, at a high elevation, and moisture is critical there. And it's not just critical for us. Ann and I live right beside the Dillon Reservoir, which is owned by Denver Water. And then the Colorado River is passing nearby. And if we don't get a good snow, it's not just for the skiers, but it's for all of the states downriver from the Colorado. And when it gets dry up there, it gets really dry. There's low humidity, and if we don't get enough rain or snow, then wildfires can happen. And in the past year, there was a wildfire between Frisco, where we live, and Breckenridge, where I work. And we were very blessed not only to have a number of federal and state and local firefighters there, but also the wind turned at the right time. And if it didn't, it would run through that forest. And it's a scary thing. And we're looking ahead to a very dry period again this year. So, the rescue operations are huge.
Just a couple things. I wonder, do you have a midweek service, and do you have a choir in which Ann would sing?
I'll speak to the midweek service, and then I'll let Ann answer about the choir. We do have a midweek service. It's on Wednesdays at 8:15 in the morning. It follows the 7 o'clock men's Bible study. And it's very informal. Matter of fact, we just sit. I never vest for it, kind of like at the banquet now. Yeah. And we shorten the service, and then we all gather around the altar. And we average around 12 or so for that. But every once in a while, we'll bump up to 15 or 30. But it's spoken, and every once in a while I'll play a little guitar, or I'll get my cell phone out and have some monks chanting in the background.
That's great.
And Ann will speak to the choir.
We have a small but mighty choir. I would say there are about 10 of us typically, and we do a variety of things. We have a choir director who is also the organist. So I enjoy singing every week. Sometimes Charlie and I do some special music, and with the guitar and bass and harmonies. In the summer, we have the National Repertory Orchestra come into Colorado, and these are elite musicians from all over the nation and world who stay in Breckenridge and play in a symphony orchestra. So they're like, bachelor level kids who are applying for master's degrees. Anyway, they come to the church and play special music, symphony music, which is a real highlight to the church.
Now, just to piggyback a little bit on that, Ann has worked as the Victim Services Coordinator for the District Attorney's Office for the past 2.5 years. Her last day of work was last Thursday. She is now retired, and her job there was a lot more stressful than domestic court in Hamilton County. But one of the changes that's happening is that for the first time, we're hosting 4 NRO musicians this summer, wow. And as a host family. And they asked, what we were looking for in a musician. I said, well, an electric guitar player or a tambourine player. Other than that, we'll take whatever you got. So.
That's great. That's great. Nancy Powell's got a question. While you're bringing the mic over to her, I got a quick question.
Yes.
What's the difference between riding your motorcycle in Cincinnati area and riding it in Colorado?
It's the same difference as running a marathon in Cincinnati versus a marathon in Colorado. At our altitude, and I have an old school bike,
yeah.
So it has carburetors. Carburetors are like lungs.
Okay.
And when I go over Vail Pass or over Hoosier Pass or Loveland Pass, my motorcycle gasps.
Wow.
So it will operate at about 80% efficiency, which means I have to downshift to get over those passes. Yeah. So it's a lot different than in Cincinnati.
Yeah, is it beautiful? I assume it's beautiful.
It is gorgeous. Yeah. And I've gone over passes with the snow up 10 feet on either side. Wow. And I'm on my motorcycle. And I don't know. I'm just thinking that if I got a new bike with fuel injection, So you might want to make eye contact with Ann.
She doesn't know me that well yet. I don't know what kind of power I have. That's great. Nancy.
I'm just curious as to, liturgically, is it high, low, or medium?
Boy, that's a really good question. I would say it is broad church, generally speaking. We use a worship booklet almost exclusively. And I've done 2 things that are unusual for them in certain seasons of the year with the permission of the bishop and New Zealand. We use the New Zealand Eucharist for big swaths of time. And then I also, with the permission of Elizabeth Grover, have borrowed the Celtic Eucharist from the 5 o'clock service here and have used that at St. John the Baptist. But we put a lot of unusual things in the liturgy, and the prayers of the people are often very unusual, and the congregation really likes that.
When you say unusual in terms of the prayers of the people, what do you mean?
Well, they're kind of like the prayers you had today, in a way, in the banquet. They're not the standard forms that we have in the Book of Common Prayer. And so, it might change seasonally. It might change even with a certain circumstance, like on Earth Day or after a tragedy, which we've had, of course, too many of, that type of thing.
What about Holy Week? Have you started new ideas there?
Have you implemented 3 Eucharists a day for Holy Week and 27 services in 5 days? Asking.
I now like Holy Week.
Wow, that wasn't. I'll be editing that answer. No, just kidding.
No,
that's good.
No,
that's good.
very much tongue in cheek.
No, yeah.
But being a smaller place, we have no services on Monday or Tuesday of Holy Week, and I'm really fortunate because I don't have any assisting clergy, but I do. I have a retired deacon who's a member of the congregation, and he has worked with the national church and is very knowledgeable about all things Episcopal. And this past year, he preached both Palm Sunday, and Maundy Thursday.
Wow.
And then I have a couple where the wife is a Presbyterian pastor, and she preached one of the Holy Week sermons. And so I have some help in that area.
You have some help, and it's not as intense.
It's not as intense. And 2 services Palm Sunday, 3 on.
Do you have something on Wednesday?
On
like Tenebrae?
No, wait, nothing on Wednesday. Okay. Thursday, 2 services. Oh, something else we borrowed from Redeemer is the Mediterranean potluck supper on Maundy Thursday with deviled eggs.
Yes.
And they love it. They really love it. It adds a whole lot to the service. And of course, I brought with me the nailing of sins to the cross on Good Friday. Something we do there that I don't think you do here is the Easter Vigil.
It's true. We were just having a conversation about that recently.
Well, and I think maybe I shouldn't say too much about that. I think we're going to start doing it every year. We were just doing it when Easter was early because there were more people in the neighborhood for skiing, because skiing goes on well into April. Next year, Easter's on April 21st, which is pretty late. But I think we're going to still do it.
Do you do it on the Saturday evening or the Sunday before?
On Saturday evening.
Yeah.
And another altitude issue is learning how to make a fire at altitude.
Sure.
So I've had 2 Easter vigils, and the fire has been a disaster both times. So I'm gonna maybe use some lighter fluid or something next year.
Holy lighter fluid.
Yes.
Bless that lighter fluid. We have a question from Dawn. Reunion of the which?
The Camrys. That was.
You got to tell me what this is.
Ann and I played in a classic rock band here for 10 years when we were in Cincinnati.
Wow.
I don't know. Is Rob Krantz in the building?
Where's Rob?
He was the bass player.
He's not here right now.
Okay. Well, there are 2 of us there and 4 of them here, so I don't see it happening. But kind of like Led Zeppelin, you never know.
I like that. Next time you're in town, we'll have to try to make it happen.
Yeah, that would be great.
So 2 of them are still here?
4.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, wow. It's a big band.
Yeah.
All right. Who else do we have? David.
Again, from Facebook. I know you have the blessing of the animals.
Yes.
Out there, do you also have a blessing of the wild animals?
On Earth Day.
On Earth Day.
Actually, the blessing of the animals is an interesting thing because we do a blessing of the animals. And one of the things I started there, which was different, was that we bring the animals into church. So they're in the parish hall for most of the service, but then they parade outside, then come down the aisle to the altar and receive a blessing and then go back. What makes that a little awkward now is that the vestry just passed a no dog zone in our church.
Was that connected to this blessing of the animals?
No, it wasn't. It was connected primarily to the Tuesday night supper and health department regulations.
Right.
But also, it's a very dog-friendly county, and people were starting to bring their dogs in larger numbers into the worship space during regular services. And if you love dogs, that's a good thing. If you're afraid of dogs or allergic to dogs, or just don't want dogs in worship, so we've had to do that. That's been a little bit difficult, but we also have the blessing of the animals is in October. In November, we have a blessing of the skis and the boards. Yeah.
This is good.
Yes, we put a sticker on the skis, and we're trying to get more people from the wider community in for that.
We have any more? I have a couple more questions before we wrap up, but does anyone? We got one more from the congregation, from Jan, and then.
How large is your altar guild?
There you go. How large is your altar guild?
It is not very large. Like many things at St. John the Baptist, I like to think of it as being organic. So we have an altar guild convener, chair, facilitator, and we have 4 or 5, 6 people that help her, but it's a very low-key thing.
Yeah.
But no, we do have a small altar guild, and and a small cadre of lectors and intercessors and so forth. But it all works beautifully. It's, very simple. I try not to spill wine still, but you know how that goes.
I mean, you do your best. You
I
win
do.
some, you win some, you lose
You
some
win
on
some,
that
you
skill of the wine
lose some.
thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I like to ask people as I'm wrapping up interviews with them about the church is and I know that you've been able to kind of keep tabs on Redeemer and so that bless you. It's so good that you're back with us. I'm wondering if you have if you might be able to say what your hopes are for Redeemer as we move forward, like what your hopes are for this church and where you might see us moving.
Let me step back and just say a couple things before I answer that. One is that this is only my second time back in Ohio since I left in January 2016. The only other time was for Ben Galuzzo's wedding that I was the celebrant of, and this is only his second time. Yeah. And I've really missed Ohio. Ann and I loved being at Redeemer. I love being a clergy person here. Ann loved being at the court. We both loved being members of the congregation. We both love Cincinnati. And 5 of our 6 children still live here. And my guess is that at least Ann will be back more often now that she's retired. But I think, we've been away for a little while, and I think we'll probably be able to make more trips back. But being here at Redeemer was amazing. When I was working at Forward Movement when I first started coming to Redeemer. And all the clergy, except for Duplantier, had just left. And so he was by himself. And so on, I think, the first Easter that I was available, he had me come and help. And then he said, I'm going to hire you as a permanent supply, which means I want you here every Sunday. And you may do something and you may not, but you'll be here every Sunday. And then after a while, he said, well, I'd like you to be, to help out with Wednesday night if you could. And I said, well, sure, that's at night. And then after a little while, he said, well, could you come to the staff meeting on Monday? And that's kind of how it continued. And then he left, and for a very short time, I was the only person here. And then Martin Townsend came as the interim. And Martin, bless his heart, I just helped Martin here and there. And after a while, he hired me as the associate rector, which stunned me and surprised me. And so after only a year at Forward Movement, I became the associate rector here. So I've been here for 14 years. And to put that into perspective, I was a high school teacher for 5 years. I was a rector in Ascension and Holy Trinity for 7. And up until then, that was the longest I'd ever been any single place. So 14 years here was a real long run.
That's remarkable.
And so, the time came when it just seemed like Ann and I were ready for a new adventure, and so we left. But not only did we take so many of you with us in our hearts, we stole a lot of the good stuff that was happening here to take it somewhere else. But being back now, it's so good to be in this space. All the adults seem just like I left them, but the kids are all different now, which is shocking. But I love, I could sense the energy when I came in and experience it during the service, and I'm so delighted by that energy. And I know that some things are different. A lot of things are different than when I was here. I mean, this just appeared out of nowhere at some point during the service.
Still a controversial decision.
Oh yeah, I know, that's why I said it. But and yet the spirit of this place is the same. And so what I would wish for you is the same thing that I told Bishop Breidenthal when I was moving to a new place. He said, well, what are you looking for? And I said, I'm looking for a place that is fun, that is healthy, and that is, in a part of the world, exciting part of the world, that I'd never been in before. And I knew that that's what we were looking for. But what I was taking with me from Redeemer, this place, for me at first was just that kind of new, exciting, crazy place that I came to love deeply. But it's also a healthy congregation. And it's fun. And Bishop Reinthal couldn't wrap his mind around that. He said, what do you know, he was looking for something more spiritual. And I said, well, fun, okay, think of enthusiastic, which means in Greek to be in theos, to be in God. And so...
Well done. He couldn't argue with that.
He couldn't argue with that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that is my dream for Redeemer, that it will continue to be a place that is enthusiastic, that is healthy, and that when people come here, they find this to be a new and exciting place, unlike anything they've ever been before. And I've already seen a whole bunch of new faces here that weren't here when I was here, and it's so exciting to see them as well.
Well, Krista and I have found that as well. I mean, this has become our home so quickly, and the thing that is, you know, we're still getting acclimated to Cincinnati, but we don't feel like we're getting acclimated to Redeemer. We just feel like this place has helped us make a home, and the spirit that you're talking about has enveloped us really powerfully, and we just are so grateful for it. So when I was looking at the parish profile when I was interviewing for this place, so I would then go online and look at the website, and I think it was like right after you'd left, so you weren't on the website, but your face is all over that parish profile. So I was trying to figure out who this guy is. Is this like this sub that keeps coming back and helping out?
Yeah.
You know, I thought that I was.
I have a former rector like that where I am. Actually.
Yeah. And I thought that I was, you know, coming to replace a rector, and I was. But what I didn't know until I got here was and really got to know. I kept hearing about Charlie, because, you know, again, this was a rector search, but you had just left. And when I got here, I heard about you so much, and it took me a couple months. But what I realized was how integral to the fabric, to the life of this church that you and Ann have been. How powerful your witness and testimony and ministry to this church has been for years. And it's irreplaceable. It's irreplaceable. None of us could possibly replace that. And as you know, Nancy's announced that she's going to be leaving soon. And there's no such thing as replacing people like Nancy, replacing people like you. That's impossible. All we can do is grieve over our sadness of not being with you the way we were. But when you're here, one, you're always welcome back here. Two, when you come back, I won't interview you every single time, I promise, okay?
It makes me nervous,
No,
oddly.
I know. Well, I had to preach in front of you. That was nerve-wracking.
No, you were
kidding
great.
Me? So, but you won't, and three, it has to be said how grateful this community is for the love that you have brought to us. And this person who got here long after you left, I'm still experiencing the love and the spirit that both of you helped to bring to this place. So thank you so much for your witness to this church. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm still gonna. I know Phil thinks those were the last words, but I'm gonna give. I'm gonna. No, you're gonna get the last word. So, just very quickly to remember that Bruce left, and we were here a year, I guess, after Bruce left, and that was an exciting time. But I just knew that you guys were going to call a wonderful rector, and I'm so glad that Phil's here, full of energy. His preaching today was amazing. And I think enthusiasm is not going to be a problem in this congregation. And then you said kind words to Ann and me, but Ann and I feel deeply, profoundly blessed. I came here at a time of vocational confusion, and like Martin Townsend, and both of us left this place feeling renewed and excited about our ministries. And then Ann and I were married here in 2003. So this will always be a place of pilgrimage for us. And as I like to say, the distance between us will always be holy ground. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.